Are you feeling the pinch, ladies and gentlemen? Because 83% of Americans are. And you see it everywhere in the prices. This is what inflation does. For those of you that don't know what inflation is when the monetary supply within your economy is expanded, is inflated with what we have been taught to call money, i.e. fiat currency, is printed out of thin air, therefore having to gain its value from the dollars that you've already earned. 83% of Americans are cutting back on personal spending due to inflation. They're skipping meals. They're not even taking as many showers, conserving as much water as possible so that they don't have to pay that utility bill. Same thing with electricity, gasoline, everything. And the bad news is, it's going to get worse. Let me explain something to you, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with this. This is a very short article, but there's something that people have to understand. We all have to understand this in order to not make these same mistakes again. Because the inflation that has been created in the last couple of years, 2.5 years, and it doesn't matter what administration it is, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand, monetary policy is what matters. It doesn't matter who's president, it doesn't matter who's in the office. What matters is monetary policies. That is why the Federal Reserve and the banks and the corporations who own the politicians own this country. They run this country. It's not the White House that runs this country. The White House runs this country based on policies that it puts forward in order to benefit the banks, number one, the big corporations, number two, and unfortunately, the globalists that are trying to turn our world into a one world government. Number three, you don't matter. The only time that you matter is when tax time comes around. The only time that you matter is when they want to keep you blind as to what's really going on, so that the people, we the people, don't wake up and overthrow governments. I believe it was Henry Ford that was once quoted as saying, and I'll go ahead and paraphrase this, I don't remember the quote exactly. He says something like, if the American people knew how the banking system ran, there would be a revolution by morning. Meaning that if the American people knew how they were being stolen from right now, there would be a revolution by morning if they understood the economics of our policies. If they understood that every year their labor is being stolen from them. When it takes you more hours to get the same thing today that it took you to get it a year from now, a year ago, where do you think that labor is going? Why are you having to work more to get the same? It is because the value of your dollars that you earn, i.e., the value of your labor, is being stolen from you by the hidden tax of what is inflation. In the last 2 years, the United States has printed, ladies and gentlemen, they have created, the government has created out of thin air, almost 80%, if not more by now, 80% of all of the fiat currency, or money, as people like to call it, that has ever existed in the history of these United States. And people wonder why things are getting more expensive. Oh, it's Putin's fault. I forgot about that. Okay, our video is over. It's Putin's fault. Obviously, I'm being a little hyperbolic, sarcastic, whatever you want to call it, facetious. Ladies and gentlemen, do you really think that when you see Jerome Powell spouting out his lies, do you really think that he believes what he's saying? He is saying what he needs to say in order to keep you in the dark. And that is why Americans are suffering. And at a time when Americans are suffering because they cannot afford the things that they normally used to get with the amount of hours they used to work to get those things, the United States government sees it fit to send $40 billion here, $45 billion there. They just sent they just passed a bill to send $200 million to developing nations so that they can work on their infrastructure. Have we seen our infrastructure here in the United States? What's happening to it? It is crumbling. A great example, ladies and gentlemen, of insanity is what's going on in California. I believe that the governor of California has proposed to send around 26 million Californians a $1,040 check, I believe it is, to fight inflation. Is that an oxymoron or what? Is that the definition of insanity or what? Doing that same thing that caused inflation to fight inflation. Giving people money that they did not earn, money that was not entered into the system through labor, that was entered into the system through printing. Giving people money that was not earned into existence, but printed into existence to fight inflation, when that is precisely what caused the inflation to begin with. A couple of years ago, I made a couple of videos that were not popular whatsoever, where I talked about this stimulus that they're sending out the American people is going to cost you many times more than what you received. Do you believe it now that the average American's cost of living increased by over $5,000 per family this year in 2022? How much stimulus did we receive? Of course, it was different for different families because of their size. The more people you had in your family, the more you received. However, the average person received, I think it was like what, $4,000, something like that. And now, just in the first year, ladies and gentlemen, just the first year after all of that money was sent out, the cost of living for the average American family has increased by more than $5,000 a year. Pretty much zeroing out every penny that we received from the government, zeroing it out in the first year. And do you think it's going to go away? Do you think that next year your cost of living is going to go down by $5,000? No, it will stay from here until the end of time. Until the system crashes, until the system is reset into a system that is a fair and honest system, you will continue to pay that increased cost of living. Why? Because free money is not free. There is no such thing. Well, AP, what about these people that need this money? They don't need the money when it's going to cost them more to pay it back. It will give you a little bit of time where you feel wealthy. It's called the wealth effect. And everyone during the stimulus days was like, oh man, I got more money in savings. Let me put this into crypto and become a crypto millionaire. Let me invest in stocks in Robinhood. Let me do this because now I have a little bit of extra money. But what about now? People are going to start losing their jobs. All right, ladies, this is just the facts. People are going to start losing jobs like crazy. We are going to enter into a recession. I think we already are in a recession. All right, ladies and gentlemen. And even worse, we will enter into stagflation. Stagflation is when there is low employment and high inflation. The worst of two worlds. Inflation will persist. And even if the government reverses course, not even if they reverse course, if they reverse course from what they're doing now, right now they're tightening. If they reverse course, forget it. Inflation will go out of control. And the only thing inflation is, ladies and gentlemen, is the theft of your labor, of your time, of your seconds. That is what inflation is. And now Americans are feeling it. And I'll tell you what, I can talk about this for hours. The vast majority of Americans are cutting back on their spending because of rising inflation, according to a new survey data. Well, imagine that. I would have never guessed that that would happen. And this is what I'm trying to get at. Do you think I'm a genius? I know I'm not. I'm not even that intelligent, ladies and gentlemen. But my point is this. The people that are passing these policies, the people in government that are passing these policies in the Federal Reserve, these are supposed to be the brightest minds. The people that are running our country are supposed to be the smartest people out there, making the decisions that will allow us to prosper as a nation. I mean, they have think tanks of like geniuses that all they do is sit in a room, eat Twinkies and Pop-Tarts all day, and think of stuff. This is what our tax dollars are doing, in addition to all of that other stuff that the tax dollars are doing for all of these other countries except for us. You have to understand that even all of this money that is printed for other countries, it will eventually come back to bite us. Some people may say, well, we're helping other countries by sending them money, but we're sending that money outside of our borders. It's not going to increase inflation here. What you don't understand is this. Let's say the United States sends $10 billion. Oh no, let's talk about Ukraine. The United States send them $40 billion, whatever it is, right? And they say, okay, you have to spend so much of this on weaponry, right? But you have to purchase those weapons from American companies. Where do you think those dollars are going? Yes, they went outside our border. We gave it to another country. Do you think those dollars will make it back inside our border? Absolutely. Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a scam. So when these other countries spend our dollars, a lot of times the condition is that they spend it using it on American companies. And even if they don't, once the American dollar, the U.S. Federal Reserve note, is no longer accepted, right, as the de facto currency, reserve currency of the world, when it's no longer accepted, where do you think those dollars are going to go? And what do we produce? If we had a roaring manufacturing base, it may be a little different. It may be a little better, but we don't, ladies and gentlemen. And even those manufacturing companies that we have here in the United States, even those that we have, we rely on other countries to import their things that we need for inputs here. So for example, if you're making a car, how many parts of that car are made here in the United States? A lot of those parts are manufactured in other countries and then imported in here and then used to put together the car. So even with the manufacturing base that we do have, once those dollars come home to roost, things are going to be so expensive that we will definitely have a two-tier society, and we're on our way to that two-tier society now, which is the haves and the have-nots. It says here that Provident Bank, based in New Jersey, released a report which found that roughly 83% of those surveyed have cut back on personal spending due to inflation, with about 23% saying that they have made drastic changes to their spending. The poll found that 10.5% of those surveyed reported eliminating all non-essential purchases, meaning that they're not going out to eat, they're not going to the movies, they're only traveling to where they have to travel to, more than likely just to go to work, maybe just to go to work and church once a week. 71.7% said they have made at least some change to personal travel habits. There you go. Many Americans are struggling to purchase basic necessities as gas prices hit record highs earlier this month. And we all know that it topped over $5 a gallon, the first time in our history that we've paid that much for gasoline. When asked which increases on regular purchase products or services have hurt consumers the most, gasoline is number one, groceries and clothing were among the most frequently mentioned items. The group said, now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, this actually falls into what I was talking about earlier this video, about how Americans' cost of living has gone up as much as $5,000 or more a year. Listen to this. The group said that more than 50%, 53.3%, said that they now spend between $101 to $500 more per month on groceries alone. So at the higher end, they're spending $6,000 a year more on groceries alone. That's on the high end. On the low end, they're spending $1,212 a year more on groceries alone. And listen to this. According to the survey results, 32% of drivers are now spending between $101 to $250 more per month on gasoline. Same thing here. So we're going about $3,000 more a year on gasoline on the high end, and $1,212 more a year of gasoline on the low end. Now, $1,212 on the low end, that may not sound like an awful lot, but if you make 40 grand a year after taxes, you bring home 35. $1,200 is an awful lot of money. With 13.5% reporting a monthly increase in fuel cost between $251 and $500 a month. And people want more stimulus. Incredible. It says here, in addition to gasoline, groceries, and clothing, respondents named baby products, meat, utilities, household goods, milk, and alcohol as adding the most to their monthly bills. So listen to this. Baby products, meat, utilities, household goods, milk, and alcohol adding to the most of their monthly bills. What does this tell me? That it is the things that we need to live. Here in this survey, people were saying, yeah, cars have really gone up a lot. Yeah, housing has really gone up a lot. You know, why? Because they're not buying cars, because they're not buying houses. They're buying the things that they need to survive, ladies and gentlemen. The cutback in spending comes as consumer prices have risen at the fastest pace in 4 decades, and the Producer Price Index saw a 10.8% increase in the past year. While some consumers have cut back on some non-essential spending like dining out and unnecessary travel, others report much more drastic changes, such as, this is in the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, such as skipping meals, conserving water. So forget about that 5-minute shower. You better knock it down to 2-minute shower. Eliminating meat from their diet. People are feeling an immense amount of financial pressure right now. Are you feeling the pinch, ladies and gentlemen? Because it's not going to get any better. Trust me, it's not going to get any better. We are down a road for the next several years where things will continue to get worse for the next several years. If you are lucky enough to still have a job, be the best worker that you can be. Be on time. Don't take time off. Spend whatever excess income you may have on getting prepared, because things are going to get worse. And ask yourself a question. Do you think that your pay, right, that your pay will keep up with this inflation? Do you think that you're going to get a raise next year? A higher raise than what inflation is, than what the price of things are going up? I heard something, I read an article here the other day, and I don't have it here. I didn't look it up for this video. But I read an article, I think it's, don't quote me on this, I think it's the Bank of America, that gave their employees, listen to this, an inflation raise halfway through the year. They gave them an inflation raise. They gave all of their employees across the board a so many percent raise. I think it was a 5% raise. But the point is they gave them an inflation raise because they understand that inflation is tearing away people's labor, tearing away at their earnings. I haven't heard that in the U.S. that they've been giving inflation raises. These are the things that I've heard of in other third world countries, where they give their employees or adjust their pay on a daily basis or a weekly basis because inflation is so high. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's just starting here in the U.S. So prepare yourselves the best that you can, ladies and gentlemen. No one is going to come to your rescue. For those of you that have not purchased the Alaska Prepper Payday Prep Bucket by Nutrient Survival, today is the last day. All right, today is the last day if you want to purchase it at that discount. And if you do, make sure to use AP10 for 10% off. For those of you that don't know what Nutrient Survival is, maybe you're here for the first time or you're new to the AP community, take a look at the link in the description of the video. It's the very best and nutrient-dense long-term survival food in the market. And I stand by that, the very best. Having said that, again, have a great day. God bless every one of you.